If you're big and successful on the internet like myself and Ben Potter, then you probably know that taking a trip into the comments section can be a bit of a nightmare, with trolls left, right and centre, smart-ass know-it-alls who seem to exist only to make us look foolish and point out all our glaring mistakes, and smug 12-year-olds who have a weird fixation with our mothers. Here at TripleJump, however, things are a bit different. We're blessed with the wonderful Walrus clan, who are always on hand to leap into the comments section for a bit of friendly discourse. We see you, and we love you. In our video about the 10 scariest Resident Evil monsters of all time, nearly 1,000 of you showed up to tell us about other moments in the series that gave you the most horrific nightmares. For this list then, we've trawled through every one of those comments and highlighted 10 of our favourite suggestions. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and these are the 10 scariest Resident Evil moments of all time, commenter edition. Number 10. Falling through the library floor, Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil is best known for its scary monsters, but it was Emma Johnston who pointed out that freaky beasties are only part of the danger. We also have to contend with shoddy architecture collapsing beneath our feet. I don't know why, writes Emma, but I always found the mutated elephant in Outbreak 2 to be terrifying. Also, the jump scare that no one ever mentions from Resident Evil 2 1998 version when you unexpectedly fall through the floor in the library. Well, Emma, consider it mentioned, because we are 100% with you on this one. The mutated elephant is a great shout too, but we can't deny how thoroughly frightening it is to expect one kind of horror, i.e. the aforementioned zombarinos, only to have the rug quite literally pulled from under you. Entering the suspiciously well-lit library, we probably had an inkling that something was afoot, but as we carefully crept around the top level, we did not expect the sturdy-looking floor to crumble underneath us, leaving us sprawled less than gracefully on the ground below. Fortunately, the only people around to see it happen had recently become zombies, and they are not much for gossip. Oh, thank God, that could have been really embarrassing. Number 9. The Ivy, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Successfully invoking feelings of dread in your audience is actually a remarkable talent, even when you have such a scary-looking world to work with. But being able to give the players the willies with naught but an audio trigger is something even more special, as commenter Matt Brewer was quick to inform us. Honourable mention, if I may, he says, the sound the Ivy make in the Resident Evil 2 remake. Balls to that. Right you are, young Matthew, or old Matthew if you are older than me, I don't know, because there aren't many sounds out there that have us noping out of a situation quite as quickly as that of the Ivy from the Resi 2 remake. Well, either that or Adam announcing to the office that he's back from the local fish market. Honestly, it's a toss-up between the two. Sounding like a cross between a death rattle and a toad with an upset stomach, the Ivy announced their presence with a guttural croak that is as anxiety-inducing as it is sickening. Just don't expect to have your fears assuaged once you actually catch sight of them, because frankly, the only thing more nauseating than how they sound is how they look. Talk about a face only a mother could love. Oh god, imagine Umbrella Corp being your mother. Number 8. The Mirror Jump Scare, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Jump scares are a tricky beast. If used in the wrong way or too frequently, they can come off as cheap, attempting to frighten us without actually putting in any of the hard work. But if used sparingly, a good jump scare can have us cacking our pants quicker than you can say, "Oh Christ, what the bloody hell was that?" A man/boy who knows this all too well is viewer The Boy Who Is a Man Too, who jumped into the comments of our last Resi Scares video to tell us all about his personal experience. I've never been more scared in my life than by the liquor mirror jump scare in Resident Evil 2 Remake, says he. Upon review, we would have to agree with you there. Upon entering a locked room, players are greeted with a large mirror onto which the words "Let me out" are rather ominously daubed. Sensing something amiss and expecting an unknown horror, most of us explored the room tentatively and had just enough time to believe that all might actually be well, until this horrifying bastard launched himself unannounced through the glass at us. Oh, has anyone seen my brown underpants? I think I'm going to need them for the rest of this video. Number 7. The Locked Morgue, Resident Evil. You don't always need hordes of flesh-eating monsters sauntering about the place to invoke feelings of terror in your audience. No sir. In fact, some of the best moments in horror are those solitary, quiet ones, where an unseen threat has you on the edge of your seat, as Alex Hamilton was quick to point out in the comments. One of the things that creeped me out in the first game was the underground laboratory. The morgue was locked from the inside, hinting that someone had gone in there, locked the door, and climbed into a body bag to die. Or am I wrong? You are not wrong, Alex, because the underground lab is one spooky joint, and if the ever-present threat of zombie attack doesn't turn you off, the decor certainly will. Seriously, you could really liven up the place with some throw pillows and a nice rug. Honestly, if we'd been faced with the prospect of traversing that underground hellhole alone, we'd have probably barricaded ourselves into a room and come to a quiet end ourselves. Number 6. Nosferatu, Resident Evil Code Veronica. Back in 1922, horror icon Nosferatu had audiences running from cinemas, clutching their pearls, and dashing to the nearest greengrocers to bulk buy garlic. But by today's standards, the film is fairly tame. Not to worry though, because the good folks at Capcom were on hand to give Nosferatu a terrifying update for the new millennium with the release of Resident Evil Code Veronica. They often say that knowledge is power, but it turns out that's not the case for TripleJump viewer Nikolai, who amplified their own anxiety by researching the monster before facing it. Resident Evil Code Veronica's Nosferatu. Reading about him before facing him was terrifying. Well, we very much agree, Nikolai, because one look at that pasty mug and all of those freaky appendages, not to mention that exposed pulsating heart, and we were running for the hills / greengrocers again. Our writer hasn't played Code Veronica, so we thought we'd try to recreate Nikolai's experience by sending her off to research Nosferatu without any prior knowledge, and after reading up on the open-chested abomination, she hasn't come out from behind the sofa. It's been nearly a week and someone should really check on her, not least because it can't be very easy to write back there. Number 5. The End Credits, Resident Evil 4. You've done it. You've made it to the end of Resident Evil 4. It's been an ordeal, no doubt, but your nerves are just about intact. And all that's left to do is pour yourself a nice big cup of hot cocoa, cream and marshmallows too, you deserve it, and settle down to watch the end credits. Except, nope. Because as it turns out, the end credits of 2005's Resident Evil 4 might just be the most harrowing thing about the game, as commenter Ezekiel rather kindly reminded us. I was expecting the Resident Evil 4 ending credits to be on the list. That still gives me chills. Yeah, me too, pal. Thanks for dredging up that heinous memory that I'd clearly forgotten when writing that first video. But what's actually wrong with them, cry those of you who have fortunately not had the pleasure of finishing the game. Well, the credits depict through some simple line drawings the fall of the Spanish villagers to the Las Plagas parasite, leaving players feeling very much down in the dumps as they watch these simple, innocent farmers' lives be torn apart. It really is a depressing and haunting close to the game, and not one that even Leon Kennedy can flirt his way out of. Number 4. Zombie Hands, Resident Evil 2. Reaching through windows with my zombie hands. Doesn't really fit, does it? Despite teaching players to be suspicious of absolutely everything very early on, Capcom still managed to frighten us out of our skins with the inclusion of the zombie arms jump scare in the series' second entry. Based on the comment we received from Eon, we weren't the only ones. I remember weeing myself at the zombie hands coming out of the windows in that hallway on the first floor when I first played Resident Evil 2 in 2002. I was so scared walking by the windows after that. Of course, I was like 12 or 13 years old. We feel you, Eon. We still can't stroll past a bit of double glazing without flinching a bit. In real life, I mean, and we're quickly approaching 30. Not only did these disgusting appendages burst forth without warning, loosening the bowels of even the most hardened gamers, but stand a little too close and the swines would catch hold of you, forcing you to fight them off or face a fate unknown. Probably involved them noshing on your cranium, but we weren't hanging around to find out. Never thought I'd say this, but can we go back to the underground lab? At least there's no windows down there. Number 3. The Hedge Maze, Resident Evil 4. You know what's great? Hedge mazes. There's nothing more pleasant than spending an afternoon down at Hampton Court and getting all lost in the greenery. And you know what else is great? Doggos. Unfortunately, the topiary labyrinth in Resident Evil 4 is somewhat lacking in gorgeous greenery and has too much doggo for our liking, which is something I never thought could be a thing. Yes, this hedge maze lands a place on our list because it's full of mutant flesh-hungry wolves. The entry was suggested by viewer Argentinian Redneck, don't worry sir, I'm pretty sure there's a cream for that, who very simply said the maze part with the wolves was the scariest poo-poo ever in Resident Evil 4. We could not agree more. Well, maybe not ever. I'd probably still rather have my throat ripped out by a mutant wolf than be cuddled by an Iron Maiden, but hey, it's definitely up there. Luckily, these naughty puppers can be dealt with by a couple of swift stabs, a shotgun blast, or a flashbang, but that hardly reduces the horror of these tentacled canines, especially when they descend upon you in a pack. God, I knew I shouldn't have dropped that squeaky toy when playing Inventory Tetris. Number 2. Alex Weissker, Resident Evil Revelations 2. I don't think we're speaking out of turn when we say that Alex Weissker isn't a particularly nice lady. You know, what with the human experimentation and all that. But something she does have on her side is something I'd now like to dub the Dimitrescu effect, in that, hey, you are objectively beautiful enough that I don't really mind what you do to me. Unfortunately though, even that goes out of the proverbial window with proverbial zombie arms sticking through trying to grab you in 2015's Resident Evil Revelations 2. The I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong, I'm so sorry, took to the comments to remind us of her disgusting transformation at the hands of the T-Phobos virus. Personally, for me, I found Alex Weisker's first infected form to be the scariest thing in the series. Just the creeping of this hunched-over creature which stalks you in Revelations 2. It's true, from the hunched back to the lank, greasy hair and the bloodshot, bulging eye, it's clear that Alex is in serious need of a spa day. Sadly, things don't improve much for Miss Weissker at the game's close, as she mutates into her final form, exposed spinal column and all. I mean, at least the hunch is fixed. That's something, right? And number 1, Nemesis Vs Brad, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. In and of himself, Resi 3's Nemesis is utterly grotesque, and one look in his direction could induce feelings of panic in even the most fearless of us. His swift dispatch of Brad in the original 1999 title left most of us curled up weeping on our living room floors. Not only does the abomination appear seemingly from nowhere and murder one of your pals right before your eyes, but it then falls to you to sort out this whole mess single-handedly. Yikes. Like many of you, Christine took to the comment section to tell us what utter wallies we were for leaving this out of our first list. Resident Evil Nemesis after the tyrant kills Brad, and you're left to face him, she declares. And she's absolutely right. So here it is at the top of our list, and you can consider us pillocks no longer. Sadly, or not, depending on how you look at it, Brad's death at the hands of Nemesis was left out of the remake, and he got to go out in much more noble fashion that time around. But it's still undeniably one of the most terrifying moments in the whole franchise, leaving players horrified at the brutal murder they just witnessed, and completely unprepared for having to deal with the monster themselves. Best of luck, everyone.